Awesome. Thank you for the introduction, Matt, and thank you everyone for joining either this morning or this evening, wherever you are. So as Matt said, today we're going to go through a week in social media. Just to give you a bit of an overview of what we'll cover, first off, I'll just give you a very, very brief introduction to me. We're going to be talking today not about the we're going to be talking why, rather. We're going to be talking about the how. So we're going to be talking really practically about curating and putting together content for your social media platforms. In particular, we're going to be talking about planning and preparing your content, so talking about your firm, then content of interest to your clients, how you can actually schedule that content, so in advance, make the most of that. Lastly, engagement on that piece, because that's really important as well, and of course, any questions that you have. So, a very brief introduction to me. The name is Indian, it is the question I get asked the most, and the accent is Kiwi, not Australian. So I do have a degree in criminology and educational psychology. First set out to look to be a criminal profiler. Can say I'm very far away from that now. Over the years, I've worked in an advisory and facilitatory capacity locally, nationally and globally, and I've worked in and around the accounting industry for the last 7 years. I'm not shy of moving around. Obviously started off in Wellington, did a nice stint in Sydney, and now I'm based over in Newcastle in the UK. In my spare time, you can often find me either at the gym, exploring the surrounding areas, or I love to try new food, wine, and culture. So I love social because I think it really First off, just want to start everything off by saying that social media shouldn't be filling in any gaps. So you shouldn't be Clark Kent by day and Superman by night. You need to keep a consistent form over your social media accounts as what you have offline and also what you have online in other areas, whether that be your website or your blogs. It needs to have that consistent representation of you and your brand and also you to clients as well. So obviously with anything, good planning and preparation is always key. So we're going to talk through some steps of how you can plan and prepare content and a variety of content. We're going to focus on the content about your firm, your clients, information of interest to your clients as well, and also how to engage them. So first off, talking about marketing your content. So a good way to get together content for yourself is to focus on these key areas. So firstly, do you have any blogs? Are you creating any blogs? Those are really good to put together to share on your social media accounts. Also your points of specialization and niches. So is there anything that verticals that you like to focus on or you service? Also, just stepping back from the content there, can these be woven into your overall online presence? So can you maybe in your header image there weave that somehow into your overall online message so you've got a nice consistent flow through and a nice snapshot when you prospects or anyone else is visiting your social media profiles. Obviously, as well as your services and offering. So what are you actually setting out to provide clients? What do you want to be known for? Those are really good key points to accumulate and put together as content that you can plan and schedule. Also, any other content that you're doing. Have you had any PR? Are you doing any guest content? Is that maybe for any of the software products you use? Maybe for any clients? Maybe as an industry specialist? Are you running any workshops, events? Are your staff accomplishing anything? Quite often I find when accountants actually sit down and look through these points, they find that they do actually have a lot of content already existing to sit there and talk about themselves and to produce themselves in a really good light. Also, if you already are a BizInc customer, the that you get, and also the client converters, these are really, really successful online. So the next part to think about compiling and putting together is content of interest to your clients. So any local and pertinent news, are you based in a community or in an area where a lot of your clients are from that same area? Are there things going on locally that are important to them, even if it's something in the community? Maybe it's something with changes that are going on to the local laws, or it could be something more global scale or national scale that are going to affect your clients. Are there any financial and taxation news that's happening? Is there anything that you think your clients need to know about or they need to be aware about in their businesses? Also, any industry news. Do you have clients in different industries? Are there things that are going on? Could even be simple as something like hospitality awards are coming up in a couple of months. Making your clients aware of those, compiling together that content, or even things like maybe going a step forward and actually nominating your clients in that area. Also think a little bit wider about facts for the area, industry or region. You can easily find this information on Google Dates or a timeline, simple on Wikipedia or something of the like. So, you know, if you are based in a particular area, are there fun facts for the area that you can compile together and schedule through? If it's a particular industry, for example, you've got some clients in retail, how about when was the first till invented? What are some key dates in retail that your clients could be interested in or could add a little bit of fun and flavour to your account while subliminally still pushing forth your message of who you deal with and what your specialisations are? Also, sign up to I do believe I just cut out briefly there. I'll just start that sentence again. Apologies to those that had an effect with the sound there. So do sign up to any news and newsletters of importance to your clients so you have great curated content delivered straight to your inbox. Now, if you do have more than one person who are looking after your social accounts, or if you're wanting to share the load, or simply if you're wanting to segment that type of content out of your inbox, what you can do is you can actually set up a different email address accessible to whoever you like. Maybe it's marketing or social media at abcfirm.com, and you can segment those as necessary and put those all in. The next thing to use, Twitter lists. So for me, I think that Twitter lists is a great way to find and curate content. Often I see it as being one of the most underutilised features, not only by accountants, but businesses in general. I will come back to Twitter lists a little bit later, but for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's a great feature that you can use either make public or private. You can also subscribe to other people's existing lists as well. You actually have to be following those people, so you don't have to skew your metrics, your followers as comparison to who's following you if you don't want to. It's a really nice way to act as a filter through the noise on Twitter, and this content doesn't have to stay on Twitter. it can be used elsewhere. The other thing, which is a nice free tool to look at, is something called Feedly. So I've just put up a screenshot of it here for those of you who aren't familiar. Feedly is a really nice way to compile, curate and put together content of interest to you and your clients. So as you can see, if you can read the small writing on the right hand side there, I've put together a few key areas as an illustration. So firstly, I've got accounting at the top here, then I've got food, then I've got some marketing, property and startups. So you can compile together any areas of interest, whether it be industry specific or maybe technology specific, that's of interest to your clients. You can log into whatever frequency you like. It could be daily, they are updated daily, could be weekly, could be monthly, whatever fits best with your schedule. And it will filter through all of the articles that are popular under those labels or those industries. So it's a really nice and easy way to sit down and find some great relevant content. Next, talking about is how to actually schedule and prepare that content. So we've talked about compiling together content that's for your firm, talking about you, and also content that's of interest to your clients. So a really good way to put this all together, obviously it's hard to remember to do this daily, is to look at a schedule or preparation tool. So there are many different options out there like Buffer, Hootsuite, Sprout Social. If anyone is interested in knowing a bit more about them, feel free to flick through a question. I'll talk to them at the end, or alternatively flick me an email, always happy to. What I've got here is a little illustration Buffer. As you can see on the right hand side, it's got a browser connection. I do find sometimes you stumble across a piece of content and you think, oh, that'll be great to tweet or that'll be great to talk about. You can have a nice easy browser connection that you simply click on the Buffer symbol or the Sprout Social symbol, and that will import that through and schedule that as a tweet for you or as a post. You can also go as easy with these as actually scheduling when you post for. So you're simply needing to drag and drop in the content that you're wanting to schedule. You can change them for specific timings. However, if you're wanting to tweet, as we've got here, Monday to Friday, at 3 different posting times every day, you can schedule that and just add the content as you need to. So being able to schedule provides you with a good base level of content that's not time dependent necessarily, or it can be scheduled in advance for specific times. So for example, talking about those fun facts or those Google dates or the timeline, whether it be local or the industry, I've got a lot of clients or a lot of businesses I see will actually sit down and do that 3 months in advance. So they'll find the timeline or they'll find the dates and they'll sit there for 15-20 minutes and plop in the dates for the next 3 months. So they've got that sitting there all nice and ready to go. Also looking at your content, so what blogs you've got going out, you can have those scheduled and prepared automatically to tweet. So you can sit there monthly or you can sit there weekly, and you can break down what you want for the week. So you can see that you've got no repetition, you've got a nice variety of content, and you've got a good base level of content there. Also, with BizInc, if you are a BizInc client, there's social media integration. My favourite is with the blogs. So if you're posting any blogs, this can automatically post these to your social profile as well, taking that step away and making that nice and seamless for you. So as I said, whatever works for you, whether it is weekly or monthly, put aside some time to prepare and put together and compile this. It's also a really great idea if you are doing a brainstorm to talk about, say, what your specialisations are, or your niches, or places where you're finding content. Put together a wee folder, or maybe it's a Google document that you share, chuck in some websites that you're finding great content on, or if you're just using Feedly, leave it all in there, and put together some illustrations of different USPs or different tweets that you have, so that you've got a nice easy place to go back to and to look at, so you're not having to think every time. So the next thing is looking at engagement. So I've broken this down into two separate sections. First of all, encouraging engagement. So giving your community, whether it be existing clients and prospects, specifics to engage with. So you're providing like a customer service role virtually. So you can do some of this with scheduling as well. So this can come under the scheduling. However, true engagement is something that's more organic that I'll move on to. But it is always important to engage with your followers and clients because everyone loves a virtual high five. I'm sure everyone loves a comment if you get a nice comment or someone notices something. It's similar on social media. It's giving someone a compliment or noticing something that they're doing online, digitally. So a couple of really good ways to do that is to look at important dates for your clients and add these into a calendar and set reminders. So you can compile them all together at one time. You can set them into a Google Calendar or an iCalendar, however you use. And whether it be weekly or monthly you prefer, you can put this into your scheduling tool. So you've got those clients and those congratulations or whatever that date may be that they've accomplished coming out. So you're not having to remember them a couple of days later, or you're not trying to scramble and remember them on the day. So anything from, is their business turning a certain age, maybe it's a director or a CEO's birthday, maybe you know that they've got a child due soon, whatever it may be, and whatever level or personalisation you have with your clients. Also client content. So quite often you'll find that your clients are trying to be seen and trying to get ahead on social media and in the online world as well. So a really nice way to keep on top of this is to set up Google Alerts for your clients. So this again can be scheduled. So what you can do is you can set up Google Alerts. You can segment that if you're wanting to filter through into that generic email address again. And you can simply, all it will do is whatever frequency you have, whether that's daily, whether that's weekly, you have that to set up and come into your inbox. You'll have anything about your clients that's been newsworthy out into your inbox there. So it's a great way to take a look at that, schedule it, congratulate them. Maybe it's a good PR piece, maybe they've been in a community charity event, whatever it may be. Also, another way is the thank yous for any retweets you get and follows. So actually acknowledging people that are taking the time to engage or share your content and also follow you as well. So the next part, we're moving into more organic engagement. A nice way, again, this Twitter list is coming back up to filter through and see who you'd like to engage with and what conversations you'd like to be a part of is through Twitter lists. So first off, I always recommend creating lists yourself. So whether that's clients, prospects, of course you can get this private, industry organisations, so whether it's something pertinent to your clients, maybe it's the hospitality organisation or the trades and services, any also magazines or publications that are popular in those industries. Also it's staff, if you've got staff as well. Also any technology you use for clients too. So if you're using things like Xero, Receipt Bank, whatever it may be, add those into a list, because if there's updates that happen or there's content there, that could be really useful for your clients as well. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, I've done a couple of shots from our from the BizInc Twitter app, from Twitter's app on BizInc account. So you can see you've got the view list there. And in the next screen, you can see lists that we've either created with the little BizInc logo or lists that have been subscribed to. So you can subscribe to other lists without having to follow people. And it's a really good way for you to not have to start out from ground up. You can go and find some great content that's already out there as well. Also, have a look at particular hashtags and save them. It's a great way to get involved in topical conversations, especially anything that relates particularly to your clients. You can use and always do a search for them. So in terms of lists, again, just reiterating that, it's a great way to filter through the content you want to engage with. I always recommend spending a couple of minutes a day or every couple of days looking through, retweeting, favoriting and commenting on pertinent tweets, especially where your clients and prospects are involved. Obviously, some of the more what I would call subsidiary lists for content, whether it be some of the technology you use or the industry-specific ones that relate to your clients, those can maybe be done weekly, but I'd always recommend taking a quick look through, spending literally a couple of minutes while you've got a coffee, having a look through those lists, seeing what your clients are talking about. A simple favourite or a simple retweet can go a really long way. Of course, engagement is really important because no one likes someone who talks about themselves. So it's a really nice way to kind of focus on a 30-30-30 split here. So 30% sort of talking about you, what you guys bring to the table, your firm, what you're doing. 30% about content that's of interest to clients, and 30% about the clients and the engagement yourself. Obviously leaving a 10% buffer there. No, my maths isn't quite that bad for anyone that was wondering. So when done well, when it is done well, when social media users are most engaged with a brand, they're most likely to visit that brand site. And yes, that does mean if they're still a customer, they are most likely still to come and visit that brand site if they are really engaged with those social profiles. So if you are offering new services, if you're doing events, if you're refreshing your content on your site, keeping an engaged social media profile is a really good way to filter through people onto your website. Also, they're most likely to become brand ambassadors as well. So they're going to be liking your brand, loving you as an accountant, and loving talking about you. Also, they're most likely to recommend that brand to others and to think that you're a thought leader in your industry and your space. So a little look, a couple of illustrations of what that actually looks like on Twitter. As you can see, I've taken two from an accountant's site here, Interactive Accounting. So the first one here, simply saying that a particular accountant's a legend. Also, we've got a client here saying that they're a huge fan of Xero and Interactive and what valuable advice they get to their companies. So that's just a little illustration of what happens when it is done well. So I'll pause there and hand it over to Matt to see if there's any questions. I think there's been a couple pop up. And please do, if you've got anything else, please do fire them through into the question panel. If you've got any comments at all, or if you are leaving us now and don't want to stick around for the questions, if you'd like to say how you found things, please do. Always welcome feedback. Would love to hear what you think. And for those of you leaving us now, thank you again for your time. I hope you've got some great tips to put together to be able to schedule content and curate that, content for your clients and for your firm. And I'll hand over to Matt for any other questions.
Hey, thanks, Gaitra. That was absolutely great. Yeah, we've got quite a few questions coming in, so keep those coming in as well. First question I've got is it's kind of two questions, but first of all, to get your thoughts on consistency. Is it better to sort of like do 2 in 1 week, or 2 posts in 1 week, or just get stuff out when it happens? And then kind of related to that, what about reposting or retweeting the same content? Is that a good or a bad thing to do?
So I'll answer that in two parts. I always think consistency is important. Obviously, you want to be optimally posting when your clients are about. So have a think of who your typical client is, what they do with their day, when they're probably going to be on social media for the best traction. Consistency is always good because it keeps you front of mind. Whether or not you're particularly talking about your firm, you're still there, you're still a presence. So even if you're doing something fun like gin was first invented in 18, whenever it was, that's still a tweet, a piece of information coming from you and keeping you front of mind. Secondly, in terms of repeating or reusing content, absolutely. All I say is don't be hammering the same tweet over and over and over again. If you've got a great blog piece and you want to reuse it, just think about introing it differently. So blog piece a little bit differently. if you want to have a little look at a current illustration, we've been promoting these workshops online for BizInc. You'll see we've got a few different workshops, but we've actually talked about them in a different way. So it's exactly the same link, exactly the same workshop. It's just introducing it in different manners that would be of interest to different people.
Yeah, right. And because I read something that, especially on things like LinkedIn and Twitter, which are very active, the stream of content, short content is flowing through the day. Somebody might only check that once a day. So if if they check once a day at 3 p.m. and you post at 9 a.m., they'll never see your stuff. So is that kind of like does that suggest that you should, repeat at different times of the day? Maybe not completely repeat, as you say, rephrase, but certainly push out the same information and links quite a few times.
Absolutely, especially when it's content that relates to you and content that you want to draw people back to your site about. The only thing I will say there is that if it's a popular tweet or post, the algorithms behind the different social media platforms can make it present regardless of what time someone's looked at it. So, for example, you may notice if you go onto your Twitter stream, close to the top you'll see suggested content or such and such has liked this tweet. It's based around algorithms of delivering you content that you think they think you may like. So it's a nice that is kind of one part that plays in it, but absolutely always look at repeating your content, especially if it's about your firm, if it's blogs that you're producing, and yeah, definitely just look at phrasing it slightly differently, so for the sake that someone may see the same thing twice.
Yeah, I think that's like not just social media. That's a fear that people have of repeating, whether it's email marketing or whatever. But it's been proven time and time again that you have to like touch people. You read different things, 7, 11, whatever, pick a number, but basically multiple times before they take notice. So that repetition is actually super important, I think.
It makes your job easier as well, because if you've got one blog piece but you can get 10 tweets out of that, fantastic. And also remember, if it's a blog piece that's not pertinent to a certain time, use that again in 3 months or 6 months, build up a repertoire, build up a nice base there of content that you can reuse.
Trevor mentions that he's heard of a tool called Edgar, which is basically for doing that repetitious content. Do you know of that, or do you know of any other tools where you can kind of schedule things to repeat themselves?
Yeah, so Edgar is a tool and it's great, definitely. I sort of generally lean towards telling people about Buffer and Hootsuite, and then Sprout Social thirdly, because of the price point. Buffer is free up to a certain part. Hootsuite is pretty cheap. Sprout Social is the more expensive one. I do recommend that if you are looking for heavier analytics and you also want to integrate your Google Analytics into that as well and have a more holistic style of reporting. So it's really dependent on what's important to you to measure and what you're wanting out of the system. If you're just wanting something that you can drag and drop and schedule tweets from, something like Buffer does that and it's free. If you're wanting something a little bit more heavyweight, or if you're wanting to kind of look at brand keywords or whatever, you'd go down the Sprout Social track. If you are wanting, if I think you said Trevor is wanting a little bit more advice or wants to talk a bit more about that, more than happy for him to drop me an email as well.
Cool. So question from Steve. He's talking about newsjacking. So basically saying taking a message from a big news event and twisting that to fit your message and your clients. Is that something you'd recommend accounting firms can use?
Yeah, definitely. If there's anything that's pertinent that's going on, whether it's a news event, whether it's something like the Academy Awards, whether it's the Euros, whether it's whatever it may be, if you can twist that and find something relational for your clients, use the appropriate hashtag, by all means do it. The only thing I do say with those is that it's very off the cuff and you've got to have the time when it's relevant. It's not something that you can do a month later if the news is already passed or the event's already passed. So if you have the time to do that, absolutely, those are phenomenal. They do really well. Something I've done with an add-on called Spotlight lately is I've used one of their products to demonstrate stats behind the Euros. Well, no accountant's really ever going to use Spotlight to show some statistical data around the Euros, but the Euros is topical at the moment. It's a nice way to keep front of mind that, you know, this is what you can use a particular product for. So there's definitely different ways that you can encompass that. Really good question here.
Yeah, cool. I'm predicting them will go out in the next round. being from there, but we'll see. I've got a question actually. I really liked your phrase, the digital high five, and I think that's you know that spreading that goodwill is a really important part of social media. Kind of like the opposite of that, I do see a lot of people who, and in the accounting profession and industry actually, use social media to moan about stuff. So the one that I guess is my personal bugbear is people who moan about the lack of service in like first class lounges in airports. And it seems to be a certain type of business people thinks that's a fantastic thing to do. So I guess my long-winded question is, positivity is a really good thing to do. What do you think about kind of negativity in social media, you know, kind of bagging other people or kind of whinging about stuff? What your views on that?
I always think that the principles that you provide, that you apply offline, should be the same that you provide online. So if you feel something really horrible has happened and your only outlet is to send a tweet about it on social media, by all means, if that was how you would approach it offline, if you would, you know, go and talk to someone about that particular incident or service, if they were available, sure, you know, do it. I would say do it few and far between. It's got to be some sort of extreme level in order to do it. Also keep in mind who your followers are, and I would never say do it from a business account, so never say do it from BizInc's account, but do it from Matt's account. That's a little bit different, but I think you're never going to outrule that, because there are some people in the world that are just complainers, and they're going to complain on whatever forum, whether you're sitting down and having a coffee with them or whether you give them access to, you know, they sign up to have a Twitter profile. So I think that's never going to occur, but I think always be mindful of who else is reading that and what perception they get of you, whether it is a client or a prospect, because obviously if you've got a personal account and a professional or a firm account, people are quite often going to be following both, and you're still a representation and an extension of that business.
Yeah, right. Hey, that's great. Well, I'll leave it open just if anyone else has got a question. If you could just flick onto the next slide, please, Gertrude.
Yes, of course.
So
I'll leave you to talk about those.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Just a couple of things. Month of marketing. We've got a couple more events. I'll show you the next event in just a second, but you can win a website from BizInc and coaching from Pricing Power. If you go to bizinconline.com and book a demo, everyone who comes to a demo in June will go into the draw to win a website and a year of hosting. So a few more days to do that. And with Pricing Power, Steve Major's giving away a free year of coaching. So if you go to transformationaladvisor.com/apply, appreciate that's not a very easy domain to remember, so we will send that we will send out a link to that in the follow-up email. And then if you could just flick onto the next slide, please.
Of course.
So the next event is tomorrow. I'm getting confused with all the time zones now, but you will get
Tomorrow, same time.
yeah, tomorrow same time. There you go. Simplified it for me. You'll get a reminder email because you registered. And Gayatri's going to be back answering more social media questions. I've got a whole bunch of questions for her. So those Q&A sessions have been really good. We had an amazing session with Trent McLaren from Intuit last week about selling. So that'll be really worth coming to. And I'm not going to tell you what the questions are, Gayatri. I'm just going to put you on the spot tomorrow.
No worries, and please do come if there's anything that hasn't been covered today or anything more on the strategic side that you'd like answered. Absolutely, either come or feel free to send them in to Matt or myself, or tweet them on the hashtag, and we'll ensure that we answer them tomorrow for you.
Cool. All right, brilliant. Well, let's wrap it up there. Thanks to everyone for coming along. We'll send out the recording and those links tomorrow. And special thanks to you, Gayatri, for great presentation.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Matt. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you.